Now today, I sadly have no recipe for you, but I do have a taste test of protein bars. So if you're looking for some protein bars, but you're not quite sure what you want, I'll be evaluating all of these on taste, protein, net carbs, calories, and bites and points. So if you'd like to see what we think of these protein bars, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my tasting counter. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel typically sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is not a recipe, as I'm sure you could tell by the thumbnail and by the lack of ingredients in front of me, and I'm also on the wrong side of the counter. But recently Paul's doctor had mentioned to him that he should be eating more protein, lower carbs, and he started getting into some protein bars. So I thought, why not evaluate some that he can test, see what he likes, but I could also pass along that information to you. Now I have 12 items here that are protein packed. Now I did do some research on these, and just so I could give you as much information and that we could have as much information as we needed as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about each one of these. Then, because Paul and I still need to taste test these, I'm going to insert after each one what we thought of the taste. And then I have my cheat notes here, but I also have a little grid that I am going to be using to show the protein, net carbs, calories, and the bites and points, not just the bites and points on this specific one, but on this brand. So there will be a bit of a range. And then at the end, I have the taste test, which you can see is blank because we still have to taste these. But I figured that way I could tell you what ranked best as far as protein, as far as net carbs, as far as calories, and as far as bites and points. As most of you know, I am on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is around where the current plan is, but I guess things are changing and it seems like it's going to be more like, what was it, the green plan that gave you potatoes and things. So I don't know how I'm going to move on from here with the bites and points, but that's a problem for another day. For now, let's go over our protein bars. The first one on the list is one called Mind Right, and Paul had gotten this one. It's apparently something that's going to help with your brain. Don't know how true that is, but I did do some research. It contains cognitive enhancing ingredients, which are called nootropics. Those apparently help mental health. Although it's lower in protein, it has a solid fiber content, making it a balanced choice for those focused on brain health. So if that is something that you need to consider, and I know for me, as I'm getting older, sometimes I think I do need that, this one might be a good choice. Now, nootropics, I didn't know what those were, are substances that are claimed to improve cognitive function, particularly executive functions like memory, creativity, focus, and motivation in healthy individuals. They're also known as smart drugs or cognitive enhancers. This bar is plant-based, vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO. It's also low in sugar, but its carbohydrate content is relatively higher for a low-carb diet. Could work for those with moderate carb-restricted diets. Now, for the bites and points on this, I did get a range for this brand between 5 and 7. For the nutrition facts, the calories are 200, the protein is 12 grams, and the net carbs would be 18 grams. Apparently, from what I did in my research, a bar is considered low carb if it contains around 20 or fewer total carbs per serving. So this is at the lower side of protein, but I did also check because we are looking at all the factors here. I did look at the price per serving for one of these, and for one of these bars, it's considered a price of $2.50. It comes in a box typically of 12 for $30, $29.99. So that's something that you may want to think about. I believe he got these through Amazon. I will have all of the links to any of these that I can get through Amazon in my Amazon storefront, and that will be linked down below. All right, so for our tasting of the Mind Right, I'll insert that right here. So the taste test results for the Mind Right chocolate chip crunch bar. It did live up to its name. It did have some crunch, which we liked. It had little crunchy bits that were nice to break up the softness of the bar overall. It was kind of reminiscent of a soft granola bar. It was a little dry, but did have a nice chewy texture. And the chew on a lot of these bars was important because it gave you a little more time to eat it. It wasn't just like something you just throw in and forget you've eaten it 5 minutes later. You got to chew it. That made it last a little longer. For the tasting score, it got a 3.5, so just slightly above the middle. We're going on a scale from 1 to 5. And just so you know, none of them got a 5. But if you did go to 1 or even a little below that. Now the next one that I have here is Lenny's and Larry's Cookified Bar. And this is the cookies and cream flavor. It's listed on the package as gluten-free. For the nutrition, the calories are 160, protein is 12 grams, and net carbs are 17 grams. Now there were some reviews that I found that some described it as crumbly and dry with a slightly chalky mouthfeel, while others enjoyed the cookie-like flavor and feel. And the Lenny and Larry bars, for the product, not for this specific flavor, it usually has about 6 to 8 bites or points. Now, price per serving is $1.99, and it comes in a box of 12 for $23.88. All right, so let me insert our taste test of Lenny and Larry's Cookies and Cream Bar right here. The tasting results for the Lenny and Larry's Cookified Bar, cookies and cream flavor. If it didn't say cookies and cream on the label, neither one of us would have guessed it was cookies and cream. It had a very faint cookie flavor. It was satisfying in the chew, but there was nothing wow about it. Neither one of us was like, oh yeah, we gotta get this again. A decent flavor, but it kind of left a gritty feeling on your tongue and a slight aftertaste. And Paul detected a faintly burnt flavor to it that I didn't quite get, but I could see where you might get that depending on your taste buds and whatnot. But for us, the flavor score overall was a 2.3. Now the next one on my list, and I don't have these in a specific order right here. I will tell you at the end how the rankings went. But for right now, I'm just going through them as I have them listed in no rhyme or reason. The next one I have is the Gatorade Protein Bar. Now this is probably the highest in most of the categories and not necessarily the good ones. So for the Gatorade, it is 360 calories, which is the highest for the calories on any of these bars. 20 grams of protein, which is one of the top for protein, but also at the very end of our ranking because it's got 38 net carbs. And I believe that's because this is kind of geared towards sports people who are going to want to carb up. So that might not be the best, but it is tied for a few others for best as far as protein. But it is, as I said, highest in carbs and also high in sugar. So you have to make sure that you account for that if you're watching your sugar intake. And it does say that this bar is best suited for athletes needing a quick high energy boost. And I believe that's why it's so high in carbs as well as the protein. Now, some of the reviews that I read said that it was thick and dense, but it is popular for post-workout recovery. So again, if you're into activities, you need something like that, that might be a good bar for you. As far as the bites and points for this, Gatorade bars come in around 9 to 10 bites or points. And the price per serving is not too bad considering the size of the bar. It's $1.99 average price, getting a box of 12 for $23.88, just like the last one. But again, that was at the time that I researched this. It may change, who knows. All right, so I will insert our taste test of our Gatorade bar right here. The tasting results for the Gatorade peanut butter chocolate bar. It was very satisfying in how long it lasted because of the chew. It had a nice chew. We each had only half of the bar. It was a rather large bar, but just half of the bar was very satisfying because of that chew. The peanut butter flavor is slightly off. It reminded me faintly of, I don't know if any of you have tried the Better Than peanut butter, which I enjoy, but it doesn't quite taste like peanut butter. There was a slight, almost burnt flavor to it. And by that, I don't mean that it tasted burnt necessarily, just that there was like a deeper flavor to it that just wasn't right for peanut butter. It wasn't that light peanut butter flavor, but it did have a nice crunch that we both enjoyed. However, it did leave a slight aftertaste. And for us, the tasting score is a 2.7. Okay, the next one on my list is the Power Crunch here. I have the peanut butter fudge version, and this I got at the grocery store. Most of these I got at the grocery store. That one bar is 215 calories, 13 grams of protein, and 11 grams of net carbs. So it's on the lower end of the net carbs in this group. As far as reviews that I found, some found it too light and crumbly because it does kind of feel like a wafer. And I guess that's what is in there, is some sort of wafer texture. But others enjoyed that and liked that it was a little lighter, not so heavy and dense. But you'll find out what we thought shortly. Now, as far as bites and points, the Power Crunch bars come in fairly low, and they're all around 4 from what I've been able to find. Now, the price is a little more reasonable than some of the others. This one is priced at $1.67 a bar, and you get a box of 12 for $19.99. So if price is a factor, and also the low carbs, this might be a good bar for you. But let's see what we thought in our taste test right here. Now, the tasting results for the Power Crunch peanut butter fudge bar. It was dry and crumbly, just like many of the reviews had said, because it's got some wafers in there. So it's like you bite into it, you get little flecks all over you. So it was a little dry and crumbly. It did have a nice flavor overall, but it was nothing we'd seek out. It was decent, but nothing really to write home about. It did have a slight aftertaste, and it did kind of leave a pasty feeling in your mouth. I think it might have been from the wafer hydrating in your mouth, and it kind of left a film in there, which was not all that pleasant. So the flavor score for this one is a 2.5. Okay, the next one on my list is the Fulfil bar. I have the chocolate hazelnut flavor, and this is much smaller than a lot of the other bars, but it does feel a little thicker and a little more dense. But we will see what we think of that. As far as the calories, this one comes in lowest along with the Lenny and Larry's. Each of those is 160 calories a bar, and those are the lowest of this grouping. Now, as far as reviews for the Fulfil bar, some found it chewy and dense, which I can kind of see from the feel of the bar through the wrapper, and others did enjoy the candy bar taste and texture. Now, as far as bites and points, this comes in around 4 to 5 bites or points for this bar, depending on the flavor. And the cost, typically priced at $19.99 for a 12-pack. So that's one that you can get online, but it would also be about $1.67, so comparable to the Power Crunch as far as price goes. But how does it do on taste? Well, let me switch over to our taste test and find out. The tasting results of the Fulfil chocolate hazelnut bar. The candy bar texture was reminiscent of a Charleston chew. It had a really nice chew to it, and it kind of helped you to eat it a little more slowly because you had that satisfying chew to it. It had a good flavor, but it didn't really taste of hazelnut at all. I didn't detect any of that, like the Nutella that you'd get, that kind of hint of something else there. We didn't get any of that. And with the coating, it was very chocolatey, but it kind of overrode everything else. It wasn't as long lasting as some of the others, so it wasn't quite as satisfying. It's like you kind of ate it a little more quickly. But the flavor score for this one would be a 3.2. The next one we have is one that Paul ordered through Amazon along with the Mind Right, and that is True Bar. And this flavor has the mildly unfortunate name of Smother Fudger Peanut Butter. And so that's fudge and peanut butter, obviously. For calories, this one comes in at 190 calories. For protein, 12 grams of protein in that little bar. And net carbs is 10, so it's not too bad on the net carbs. Now this is another one that has that feel of like a little candy bar, and it is, again, one of the smaller bars. And as far as reviews, some found it dense and overly chewy, but others thought that they loved the low carb, clean ingredients. It is no gluten, no dairy, no soy, no sugar alcohols, and all delicious, so it claims. Now, as far as bites and points, for True Bar brand bars, they're going to be around 4 or 5, so still on the lower end as far as the protein bars. But it does come in as one of the most expensive. This little bar is $2.25, or a box of 15 for $33.75. So if price is a factor, as it is for me, that may not be the one you want, but we'll compare everything at the end and we'll see where everything falls. Speaking of where it falls, let's see what our taste test says right here. The taste results for the True Bar Smother Fudger Peanut Butter Bar. It also had a very candy-like texture, which we really enjoyed. It was very tasty. We both enjoyed the flavor quite a bit. It had a good, satisfying chew to it. It lets you kind of take little bites and actually enjoy it and relish it and make it last quite a while. This was, I will tell you now, our favorite, and the flavor score for this was a 4.5. As I said, none of them got 5, but this was the best of the bunch as far as flavor goes. Now our next bar is the Quest, and I have the double chocolate chunk Quest. Now Quest does make a lot of products that you may have had before. You may have had these before. They do make protein drinks. They make those chips, protein chips, things like that. Quest has been around for a while, and I have had other of their products. I just haven't had this one. Now as far as the nutrition on this bar, it's 170 calories, 20 grams of protein, so it's one of the highest in protein, and 7.5 net carbs. And that is almost the lowest, just one above it. But that's almost the lowest in net carbs. It's coming up as the most nutritious because it's got high protein, low net carbs, high fiber, and low sugar. Now, it is known for being chewy and tough to some reviewers, but it's also well liked for the low carbs and the high protein. As far as bites and points, these come in, the Quest bars come in around 4 or 5 bites or points. And price-wise, these are $2.29 a bar. You can get a box of 12 for $27.48. And again, that's at the time I'm doing it, and in the stores I use. Where you shop, where you live may be different. But the taste won't be different, so let's switch over and find out what we thought in our taste test right here. The flavor results for the Quest double chocolate chunk is it had a nice chew, but there was kind of a chalky texture to it for some reason, which I didn't quite understand. Maybe it's like some sort of protein powder that was in there that kind of didn't really absorb into the bar. I'm not sure. But because of that chalky texture, it ended up kind of coating your mouth in a very unpleasant way. So I was not fond of that one. And Paul found the bar overall very unpleasant to eat. He was not a fan. So We merged our scores, and this one gets a flavor score of 1.5. Our next one is one I had never heard of before called Good Snacks, and this is their birthday flavored bar. This is 220 calories, 15 grams of protein, and 18 grams of net carbs, which is still underneath the bar for making it low carb, but just barely. Now in reviews, this was considered the most favored for flavor, but some described it as dense and sticky, kind of like a candy bar, and it does have that feel to it. Difficult to chew and often too sweet for some, but others did praise the flavor. So it all depends on what you like. Now as far as bites and points, the Good Snacks bars go from around 6 to 7 bites or points, and the price point is $2.29 a bar, and you can get a box of 12 for $27.48. Now this one I'm excited to try because I love all those birthday cake flavored things. But let's find out what we thought in our taste test. The flavor results for the Good Snacks birthday bar. Not good. It was oddly dry, but also had a chewy texture, and I don't know if it was because the dry bits got moist in your mouth and gave it more of a chew. I don't know what it was, but it was very odd. It coated your tongue unpleasantly and had a slight aftertaste, probably because it was coating your tongue, and that was all you could taste for a while. The coating on this bar just tastes sugary. It didn't really taste of birthday cake at all. It kind of had a vaguely vanilla flavor, but no birthday cake. As Paul said, there's nothing to celebrate here. And we both immediately wanted to have something else to eat, something else to drink, something to get that flavor out of our mouths. That's how unpleasant we found it. And so this one goes below 1 to get a 0.5. Okay, our next bar is pure protein. I have the chocolate peanut caramel. Now, the package looks big, but if you look, my finger's squeezing. It's actually only this big. A lot of these bars do that, make the package look so much bigger than the actual item is. So it's not exclusive to this one. A lot of them do it. But for the pure protein, this is 190 calories, 20 grams of protein, which is again one of the highest on here, and 11 grams of net carbs, so it's fairly low on the carbs. In reviews, it's sometimes described as chalky or gritty, but generally it gets positive reviews. Now, as far as the bites and points, pure protein bars come in around 4 to 5 bites or points. And it's high in protein, relatively low in sugar, but the fiber content is quite low. And that fiber content is below 1 gram, so they're very low in fiber. So if fiber is something you're looking for, that might not be the bar for you. It's also one of the most affordable at $1.67 a bar. You can get a box of 6 of these for $9.99. But what did we think of the taste? Let's find out here. Now the flavor results for the pure protein chocolate peanut caramel, very much like a candy bar texture, had a good chew. There was a slightly unusual texture to it that it's kind of hard to describe. I don't know if it was kind of doughy or what it was, but there was just something slightly off on the texture. But as far as flavor, we both really enjoyed it. It was very chocolatey. You could get the caramel. There was a hint of the peanut flavor in there. So altogether, we really enjoyed it. So this one gets a flavor score of 3.6. Okay, our next one is a brand you've probably heard of before and maybe even had some of these. They're Kind protein bars. This one is peanut butter dark chocolate. These are, I find, everywhere in convenience stores, supermarkets, so you can find them all over. I know they also make granolas, so they have other things going on as well that you may want to look into. But for the Kind protein bars, that one bar is 200 calories, 14 grams of net carbs, 7 grams of protein, so that's actually one of the lowest in protein. Actually, I believe it is the lowest of all of the bars in protein. So if your focus is really protein, that may not be the best option for you. According to reviews, it can be hard and sticky due to its nut-based texture, but it's liked for its natural ingredients and satisfying flavors. Now, I have had other flavors of the Kind bars, and I can attest that they are kind of almost like a payday bar with the nuts, and the flavor is usually pretty good. I'm not sure about this one yet. Now, as far as bites and points, the Kind bars come in around $5 based on the flavor, and the price per serving is $1.50. You can get a box of 12 for $18. Now, as I said, I've tried other Kind bars. Let's see what we thought of this one right here. The flavor results for the Kind Protein Peanut Butter Dark Chocolate. There was really no peanut butter flavor. There was a peanut flavor. You got chunks of peanut, you got that flavor, but it didn't have that creamy flavor of peanut butter. There's a slight distinction. You can eat peanuts, but it's not going to taste exactly like peanut butter, if you know what I'm talking about. It did have a nice chew to it, but the dark chocolate was very off-putting, and it verged on being unpleasant. We really did not like the dark chocolate flavor of this at all. It was also one of those that gave you kind of like a coating in your mouth, and it was really unsatisfying. Even though it had a nice chew to it, it didn't have a chew that you could really like savor. It's like a little bit of a chew, and then that was it. You were swallowing, and you kind of ate it before you were really satisfied with it. So for us, this one gets a flavor score of 2. Now, our last bar, we do have one more item after this, but it's not going to be a bar. But our last bar is Robert Irvine's Fit Crunch. As many of you know, Robert Irvine is a chef who's been on the Food Network for many, many years. He used to have a show called Restaurant Impossible. He's done other shows on there as well. This is the Fit Crunch Peanut Butter and Jelly Bar, and it is gluten-free if that's something you need to know. Now, as far as the calories and things, 210 calories for this bar, 16 grams of protein, and 6.5 net carbs. That is the lowest out of all of these bars. Now, it's also come up in reviews as favored for their flavor. Some consumers do find it too dense and chewy, but it's often praised for taste, especially by those needing higher protein. As I said, it's 16 grams of protein for this bar, very low in carbs, net carbs, lowest of all of this group. It's also got moderate fiber and low sugar, so those things are also a factor that you may want to look into. Now, as far as bites and points, this is slightly higher than some others. This is usually ranges between 7 and 9 bites or points, but you could probably cut one in half if you just wanted a little snack, but wanted a little protein boost. Now, this bar comes in at $2.50 a bar. A box of 12 is $29.99. I know I've had other ones of these. I have not tried this one. So let's check out what we thought in our taste test. The flavor test results for Robert Irvine's Fit Crunch Peanut Butter and Jelly. I'm going to warn you now, this is another one that we ended up putting below 1, just barely, but it was so unpleasant. We didn't even think we could give it a 1. It was chewy, and it did have little crunchy pieces in it, which we liked. But the jelly flavor was very overpowering. You couldn't get any sense of peanut butter in here at all. And that jelly flavor tasted extremely artificial. We did not like it at all. I'm kind of shocked that these bars, the Robert Irvine bars, did as well in the reviews that I checked for flavor. Maybe the other flavors that they put out are better than this one, and I just got a bad one. But this one, we both swore we would never, ever touch again. And it did leave a residue on your tongue. So, as I said, this is going below 1 for us. And this one gets a flavor score of 0.8. Now, the last item I have, as I said, it's not a bar, and actually we finished them all, so I don't even have any in here to show you. But it's these Simply Fuel protein balls, chocolate coconut peanut butter flavor, probiotics made with real food, and it's gluten-free. And these were pretty good. They were a little chalky. I'll ask Paul what he thought at the time, but it was like they did get a little crumbly. But if you just wanted to have a couple of little things that you can just pop in, not as much as you would get from the bar maybe, but you get 2 as a serving. Now the nutrition facts for those 2 little protein balls would be 200 calories, 8 grams of protein, so on the lower end as far as protein, and 22 grams of net carbs, so one of the higher in net carbs. Now the bites and points are around 6 for the 2 protein balls. It's considered to have moderate protein content, higher carb levels due to sugars, and a decent amount of fiber. The fiber in these is 3 grams, which is not bad, but not great. I've seen others that have more fiber. Now, it wouldn't be considered low carb, but it could be considered a convenient source of protein with some additional fats and carbs if that's what you're eating. And again, that might be geared more towards people who are very active, which I am not. Now, positive feedback has said that the taste, texture, and nutritional values are good. Some negative reviews mention issues with a plastic or chemical taste. Now, I don't recall having that. We had those a little while ago. I don't recall any of that, but I do recall it was a little crumbly, so it could get a little messy. These are whole food protein snacks. They are made from clean, simple ingredients like gluten-free oats, honey, peanut butter, and chocolate chips. Additionally, they offer probiotics for added digestive benefits. So if you do need more probiotics in your diet, that might be a good solution if the other things fit in with your dietary needs as well. The price per serving is $1.83. This bag comes with 6 servings and the bag costs $10.99. So we've already tasted that one, but I will let you know right here a kind of cumulative review of what I thought and what Paul thought of those. The flavor results for the Simply Fuel protein balls, chocolate, coconut, peanut butter. We both enjoyed the flavor a lot. The one problem was that the protein balls are dry and crumbly. If you don't eat it in one bite, if you shove it all in your mouth, you could probably get away with not having an issue, but if you bit off any, you'd get crumbs all over you. The other thing that we thought was that the package design, as you saw, it was a bag, and the bag didn't really open up at the top as big as it could have, especially for larger hands to reach in. And if you decided to pour them out into your hand, onto a plate, what have you, then you got little crumbs of the residue that was in the bag all over the place. So as far as that part, we weren't fond of, the bag structure or the dryness, but flavor-wise, we really enjoyed them. We thought you got the coconut, you got the chocolate, got a little bit of peanut butter. So we really enjoyed the flavor. So the flavor score for this one is a 4, our second highest. All right, so those are the reviews. You now know how they taste. I can't fill out this paper yet as far as evaluating them on taste yet, because as he said, we haven't tasted them. But I did evaluate them on the other ones. If you are looking for the highest in protein, that would be Quest, Gatorade, and Pure Protein, Fit Crunch, Fulfil, Good Snacks, and Power Crunch come in the middle of the pack. And the lowest are True Bar, Mind Right, and Lenny and Larry, and the Kind Bar, which only had 7, so that was the lowest in our rankings as far as protein. For net carbs, the lowest one, if you're watching your carb intake, is the Fit Crunch bar, Robert Irvine's Fit Crunch, at 6.5 grams. And the next one is the Quest bar at 7.5. Then we go up to 10, and the True Bar, Fulfil, Power Crunch, Pure Protein are between 10 and 11. Kind, Lenny and Larry, Mind Right, and Good Snacks are around 14 to 18. And the highest as far as net carbs are the Simply Fuel protein balls and the Gatorade, which is the highest at 38 net carbs. If you are watching calories and tracking your calories instead, the Lenny and Larry's and the Fulfil at 160. Close behind is the Quest bar at 170. True Bar isn't too far behind at 190. Or the Pure Protein also has 190. The Simply Fuels at 200. Kind is 200. Mind Right 200. They're all about 200 from there up to 220 until you get to the Gatorade, and that one is a whopping 360 calories. Again, that might be geared towards very active, sporty people. Now, as far as bites and points, the lowest as far as the range for the product, not for this specific one, Pure Protein, Quest, Fulfil, Power Crunch are all around 4 to 5. True Bar, Kind are 4 to 6. The Mind Right is 5 to 7. The Good Snacks and the Simply Fuel protein balls come in next between 6 and 7. Lenny and Larry's is 6 to 8. Fit Crunch is 7 to 9. And again, Gatorade hits the highest as far as the bites and points, as between 9 and 10, perhaps even up to 11, depending on the flavor. Now, as far as taste, as you can see, none of them got 5. We did a taste from 1 to 5, although we did have a couple go below 1 because they were that bad. But the True Bar rated number 1 for us as far as flavor and texture, and that got a 4.5, followed by the Simply Fuel balls, which got a 4. And then the Pure Protein Mind Right are about the same at about 3.5. But those are our ratings as far as the taste. Some of you may have tried these bars and really enjoyed them. These are just our takes on them. So, depending on what you're looking for, what you want a protein bar for. If you just want it for protein, there are a few options there. If you want it for protein, but also want to watch the net carbs, there are some choices there as well. If you're going by calories or even bites and points, you have a few options there as well. But taste-wise, we would stick with the True Bar or the Simply Protein balls, and we wouldn't be adverse to the Pure Protein or the Mind Right bars either. Even the Fulfil wasn't too bad. It got a 3.2, which was pretty good. The Gatorade on down is where we were like less likely to ever want to try them again. Now, I will leave a link to the chart down below in the description box if you want to print it out or even just look at it on your computer just to see if you didn't remember which one we thought was best in flavor or which one had the better protein or net carbs. That link will be down in the description box so you don't have to remember any of the information. So that wraps up our little taste test here. I hope you found it helpful. If you're looking to up your protein and also keep some of those other things low, hopefully this gave you a good idea of where to start. And hopefully our taste testing will match with yours. And if we liked it, I hope you will too. But I hope that you enjoyed this taste test video. If you'd like to see more of these, let me know what kinds of things you would like to be taste tested, because I'd be willing to go and get some of those items and see what we think. But if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate you doing the usual, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. Also, comment down below, have you tried any of these? Or which one are you most interested or even least interested to try? And while you're down there, check out the description box. There's all sorts of information down there, from my recipe blog to my cookbook to my stores, my social media, what have you. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. All right, well, we're gonna have to go and do our taste test now. You've already seen what we thought. Hopefully we're gonna like it. But I hope that you enjoyed this. And until next time, bye.